What's up, people? I wanted to share kind of a breakthrough that I had recently, and this is about musical fluency. So recently I was with a student and we were doing a lesson, and some things just started to click. And it's so cool in the process of learning, we have the opportunity to, we like whether we're learning a language or whether we're learning music, which is really like it's a lot like learning a language. Or whether we're building a business or whether whatever, if we're developing anything, it's not necessarily like a linear trajectory. It's more of how do we say? It's more of like it's like a flat line. It can be flat for just such a long time, and then all of a sudden, boom, like you make a breakthrough. And it's so fun when we hit these moments and so awesome. So I wanted to share one of those moments that I had in a session working with someone and something that I learned about music in the process of developing musical fluency and what it means for the spiritual body, like what music is and what music does. So for me, like for we listen to music, right? We listen to this wiggly air, that these vibrations in the air that reach our ears and then send a signal to our brain. And really, we're in a part listening to listen. We're listening to hear. But I think for a lot of us, we listen to feel. When we hear a song that speaks about a certain thing or has a certain melody, something opens up inside of us and we can feel something in our heart, in our body. And what happens when we're feeling something? What is actually happening? Well, if you look at it from like an energetic perspective of potentially the Tao or the chakra system or how energy and chi moves through the body, what happens is this music somehow provides a structure for the body to connect to and allow for the free flow of energy through the system. And it's required for two of those pieces to be together. So one side is the kind of right brain creativity side. This is the flow side. This is like really what's getting activated when we don't necessarily know what it is that we're doing in the moment, but we're just creating. Things are just happening. And then there's the structured side, the left brain logic side, that like how do all these pieces fit together? And we need both. Like sometimes we can have both where we have one person working in right brain and one person working in left brain, but we can work in a sense with both of the pieces together if we learn how to develop both sides of the brain and have them working together in concert. So I want to talk a little bit about that and what that looks like through the process of music and how that opens up the brain to be able to it opens up the brain and it opens up the energetic body to be able to move energy and like why that happens. So I'm going to connect that a little bit with nature. So the first part of this is that we have this structure of music, and what we've developed now is a structure of music that I'm going to start from the beginning. Here's what happens. We have vibration, and a vibration is just a pulse. It is something that is happening with regularity. It is something that happens. So this is a pulse, and it has a frequency. How frequent is that happening? How often is that happening? So there's a frequency of the earth spinning, which is perfectly regular. It happens it happens the same time. The day is constantly, we know down to the second how many times the earth rotates every year. We know exactly how long we can rely on that. We can rely on that constancy of the earth spinning. We can rely on the constancy of the moon's orbit around the earth. These are the first ones. We can rely on the constancy of our own heartbeat, which has some changing, some fluctuation, some regularity. We can rely on the constancy of the speed of our own walk as we're walking. I walk. I don't necessarily walk like I generally, if I'm walking in one direction, I just go dum 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 dum. I'm just walking with a regular frequency of steps. These steps are happening in a certain frequency, one after the other, like this. And when I bop into that frequency, and I'm doing it with my voice right now, we have a sense of rhythm here. Tick tock, tick. You can probably already feel that as I am speaking, you are listening, but not just listening, you're feeling the pulse, and it's making your body want to go back and forth and do this kind of motion, and you can probably feel it in your body, right? You can feel that pulse, that rhythm, that regularity. And so once we start to feel that pulse, two, three, four, one, two, three, four, five, one, two, three, four, five, and we relax into it, that allows for basically what I'm understanding the brain, the logical part of the brain, to be occupied. It has something to kind of like lock into because we have a sense of regularity with the pulse, with the rhythm. And this regularity of pulse, of rhythm, especially when we learn how to do it from to automate it, to have automation in our brain. It's like I can feel the pulse, I can feel the regularity like this automatically without having to think that it's right on time. There's a lot of people out there that say they don't have rhythm, and it's it's not really possible for someone to not have rhythm. They just need to tap in to noticing the rhythm that is already there. You already have rhythm. You have rhythm because you wake up during the day and you sleep at night. That's a circadian rhythm. Like you're waking up roughly at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time. You walk at a certain speed. Like everything happens within a sense of regularity of rhythm. So we just need to start to be aware of that and willing to try it out. I'm just gonna speak like this and da 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 da, right? That's the foundation of rhythm. So there's that. This is the beginning of the structure of music. Then, as we speed up that rhythm faster and faster, it gets faster and faster and faster. And then at a certain point, it gets so fast that we cannot count. We don't feel it like this any speed has gotten so fast, so fast. It's too fast. I can't even keep up with like trying to like beat it or make it like I can't keep up. So what happens after that? So after that, I'm gonna share my screen. Let me demonstrate. So here. So frequency, right? Just a pulse. How often? Frequency just means how often. How often is it happening? We use to measure frequency hertz, which just means cycles per second. To measure tempo, 2, 3, 4. This speed, we use beats per minute. How many beats are happening per minute? So if I'm counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, if I'm counting seconds, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6, that's 60 beats per minute because there's 60 seconds in a minute. If I'm counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6, this is also known as 1 hertz. So it's like this. Oh, that it was already resolved. I was at 0 hertz. That's why I was at zero. At 0 hertz, there was no vibration. Zero is an important number, very important number. Okay, so frequency of one. One Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi, four Mississippi, one, two, three, four, three, four. So this is a pulse of 1 hertz. And we can feel this as rhythm. Imagine you're walking down the street and you're walking and you're stepping every time you one of these little pulses, and it's like this. This is known as 60 beats per minute or 1 hertz, or I guess hertz, 1 hertz. Ow, 1 hertz. I don't know why it's called hertz. It was somebody's name, HERTZ. One, two. Okay, so let's double it. Let's go 2 hertz. So now we double the frequency. One, two, three, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these pulses are now coming in faster if they're moving, if the sound is moving. Because the sound is moving, it's coming from this computer right now through the line of the cord that you're listening to, and then through the speakers, and then it reaches your ear, and that has a degree of distance in space. And so, in space and in time, it needs to reach your ear at a certain rate. And when we start from 1 beat per minute, this is a certain frequency. And this pulse, because sound has a regular speed coming through the air, then it also has a distance. So these pulses traveling through the air at roughly 700 or something miles per hour. They're traveling through the air and they have a distance. So let me just for fun see what that distance is. We're gonna go speed of sound. 343 meters per second. So the wavelength of this pulse, the distance in space on the Earth between these pulses, if they're moving through the air, is 343 meters. So if you are hearing these pulses, oh, look at this. What's this? Yes, the sound waves are traveling. So if this was pulsing and a speaker was playing this pulse out into the world, they are traveling outward at a certain speed. And if this pulse were playing, the distance between those pulses as they're moving out like ripples, three-dimensionally outward into space, just like the ripples of a pond go outward, these move outward in a sphere, outward into space infinitely, and these ripples have a distance between each other of 343 meters right now. If I double it now to 2, the distance, they're coming in faster, so now there's 2 ripples where there was only one before. So now the distance has been cut in half. So instead of 343 meters between the pulses, we now have 150 or something meters. 343 divided by 2. 171.5 meters between these pulses. So if you have a speaker that's playing this pulse, this frequency of 2 hertz, then every single pulse goes out into the world, and it goes out just like my voice is traveling out in every direction, all directions outward, and just how your ear is receiving all of the sounds it's receiving from all directions in 3-dimensional space. This sound has a distance between each pulse in space of 171.5 meters. Okay, so there's that. So let's double it again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2. This is 4 pulses per second, 4 hertz, which also would be 240 beats per minute, right? Because 60 times 2 is 120 times 2 is 240. So this is 240 beats per minute, right? The one just before this, whoops, this is this pulse, 120. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2. A lot of houses in this tempo. Okay, double it again. We're at 4 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I mean, sorry, 4 beats per second, which is also known as 4 hertz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we divide this again. Now these pulses have a wavelength of 85.75 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Halving distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Another one. Just double it. Timesing by 2. Now, one thing important to remember about this process is that each one contains the pulses of the other one, right? So in this 8, 1, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. So all these ones that we did before are contained in that one. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Let's double again. 1 E and 2 E and a 2 E and a 4. No, 1 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we double, all of the ones before it are still preserved. Okay, so we're going to double again. So this is 16. This is where, because we're at 480 beats per minute, this is where it's like there are drummers who can play this, right? I can like pick this fast, but you can't really count this. That pulse is getting out of our ability to count as a rhythm. Okay, and this is where something very interesting happens. This is where, right around the level where the pulse turns into a pitch, where rhythm becomes pitch. And our ear, the instrument in our inner ear, starts to recognize frequency. So cool. So cool. So we can't sense this in our body. We can't like count it, but we can start to we use the beautiful instrument inside our inner ear that moves back and forth and hears pitch and then sends signals to the brain. Like, what the heck? So cool. So this is 16. Let's double again. We're gonna go to 32. Okay. So you can almost hum this tone. Oh, something like in that. Okay. What I'm going to do, because up until this point, I've had a wave shape, which is literally the shape of like the speaker in time, like moving back and forth. I'm going to change it from this sawtooth wave, which gives us a nice click, right? Like, so when we're moving left and right on this little thing here is time, and up and down is the movement of the speaker, right? If you're hearing it in here, it's literally moving back and forth, just like how my vocal folds are moving back and forth with the frequency. And when it moves back and forth, when it vibrates, it 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 pushes the air and it makes a ripple in the air, just like the ripple in the pond. And the ripple in the air goes outward in all directions. And so this and these little graphs, little charts, the left and right represents time. So we're moving through time, and the up and down represents the forward and backward of the speaker. Think about the speaker as like a string, like that has an equilibrium in the center, and it can move this way, it can move this way. So the up and down on these little tiny graphs represent where that speaker is moving, and the left and right represents time. So you can see that as we move through this one, what's happening is the speaker cone is moving like this. Here's the center. It's moving like this. And then in an instant, it goes, and then it moves back. And then it moves back. So this sawtooth wave that I just showed you, that's why this sound has this defined click, because it's like, it's doing it really fast. And it's sending like a pulse like through the air. This shape of this ripple moving through the air that's reaching your ears is like it's like a wall, right? And that's why it sounds like that. That's why it sounds like that. So it has this like rigid this sharpness. So that's why it sounds the way it does. Now I'm gonna change the shape. You might not be able to hear this if you're listening through headphones, you should be able to hear. But what we're doing is we're changing that shape to a sine wave, which is a nice curve. And if you took a circle and you had the circle moving at a constant rate through time, like this, and it's just and so the circle is like this, and the wheel is turning like this. Imagine like a fan, and it's turning, it's spinning, and then it's moving this way, right? So the fan is moving in the direction that it's facing. And every time that fan goes around, it's moving at a constant speed straight through, right? And as it's moving across, let's say it's moving laterally to you right now. I'm just going to show you what this looks like. And it's turning at a constant rate, and it's moving at a constant rate. Imagine you have a point on that fan. It's turning, it's spinning. So as it's spinning, you can see, watch my finger, it's making like this kind of like this wiggly shape. And that shape is a sine wave. So the circle makes the sine wave. So it's like this. So this is showing the curve, and it has it has to do with geometry. It has a circle. Yes, here we go. This thing is kind of showing it. Here, this shows it really nicely. See, this one shows it great. So this thing is turning and then it's moving along this line. And then you see on the wall, this is the shadow of that spiral, right? Which is interesting because it's like, oh, spiral, the DNA inside of our bodies that is holding the code of how our bodies are designed and created are freaking spirals and are encoded with information, which is also the spiral here. And those spirals have a shape and a frequency and a length and a distance. And this has a shape and frequency and a length and a distance. Look at that. It's all the same. Crazy. Okay. So that's what a sine wave is. And this sine wave is the nicest. It's just it's got a nice frequency. Now this frequency is really low. This is like if you got a sub or if you got headphones on, you're gonna hear this. But you can start to hear the pitch, and it's like right around 20 hertz, 20 vibrations per second is where our ear can register pitch. And the pitch is the frequency. The pitch is like when I go up, I'm ascending in pitch, and then I'm descending in pitch. And the pitch is measured in hertz, in vibrations per second. So right now we're at 32 hertz. That's what this sounds like. A sine wave. Let's double it. 64. Ooh, there it is. Okay. Notes in the music scale with frequency. Oh, actually, give me notes with color. Okay, this one, the color of sound. Okay, because guess what's crazy? Light has a freaking frequency and so when you double these up, oh my god, I'm gonna get into this. I'm gonna connect it. It's gonna be crazy. Okay, so but let's look at this for now. So hold on. Open image. All right. So we were at 64 hertz. I don't see it on this chart. Do we have a 64 on this? Okay, let's do something else. What is 64 hertz in music? Okay. In the 432 hertz tuning system, 64 hertz corresponds to the musical note C2. In the 440 system, which is the more common standard, the note C2 would be slightly different at 65.41 hertz. 64 hertz falls within the lower end of the bass frequency range. Okay. So if you're familiar with the whole thing that is the whole 432 thing versus 440, I'll explain it in a second. But this is starting to get into why that makes sense, like why the 432 system actually makes sense. Because we're going off of the timing of a second. And the timing of a second is not arbitrary because it's based on the rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth is where we get our we divide by 12. No, we divide by 24. So we have 12 hours of the day, we have 12 hours of the night, and then we cut those into 60. So we have 60 minutes per hour, and then we have 60 seconds per minute. So that's when I started, and I took the second, then I doubled it. So I was going second, 1 second, 2 per second, 4 per second. We're just timesing by 2. So there's a regularity because we have 64. We just arrived at 64 hertz by doubling. Let's go frequency chart in 432. stuff. Yeah. So here's 256. So in the 432 tuning scale, we also have 256. It's slightly off 256.87, but ideally C is 256 because you're going to see in a second. I'm going to show you 256. So 64 is a C. It's really close to it. So let me explain. 64 hertz, 64 vibrations per second. We arrived at that because we doubled. We're just multiplying by 2. Where's my, here it is. So you remember what we were doing, right? We started at 1, we started at 1, 1. So I'm going to recap because I got a little tangential here. Go back to the sawtooth so you can hear it. Here's 1 hertz, right? 1 vibration per second. 1 is 2. Okay. Here's 2. Ba, da, ta, ti, 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 ti. Right? Or ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Double again. I'm just doubling. And remember, each one is fading into the one from before. So we're just doubling, right? It's the other ones are still preserved. Okay, double again. Now at 16, we go to 32. Okay, switch to a triangle wave. Okay, there's 32. Here's 64. So I'm just doubling. So now you can really hear the tone. I'm going to go to a sine wave. Okay, let's go to, I'm going to double again. 128. Okay, this is really interesting because you're going to hear, I'm going to try with my voice to match it, and you should be able to hear something interesting. Okay, so I could hear it. I don't know if you could hear it, but can you hear this pulsing? It was like, so my pitch wasn't perfectly lined up with that one. I was trying to match it. And when it's not perfectly lined up, what's happening is those two waves are sometimes they're coming together and sometimes they're canceling each other out. And so when they line up perfectly, it's in unison. But when they're slightly off, like when I'm singing at, this is 128 hertz. If I'm singing at 120, it's like mine every cycle is getting like more and more off, and then that creates this other pulsing. Let me demonstrate again. So hopefully you were able to hear that. That pulsing is called beating. It's called beating. It's what we use to tune the piano. And it's what's used to tune the piano. It's also very useful to tune the guitar. Right here. That beating is used to tune the piano. So on another time, I will, okay, actually, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you so you can see this is for real. We're really doing this. So I'm going to show you. Okay, so I want a sine wave PNU transparent. Yeah. So now I'm gonna pull that. Okay. So here's my little wiggly sine wave, right? Let's go person. Oh, look at this, all these cute photos of people, but I actually just want to stick. Okay, here's the person. No, 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 no. Ear. I want an ear. Okay. Oh, look, he's got a nice ear. He's got a nice ear on him. Okay. So he's receiving. Receiving. And we have a speaker. Okay, we have a speaker that is emitting. Let's just do this one. Boom. It's emitting this frequency. And this frequency right now sounds like this. 128 hertz. Now you have all these other waves, right? And right now, look at all these are happening in unison. They're nice. But what happens if I do this? Let's see how I can just like stretch these out. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. This. Okay, this is gonna give us a nice. Okay, so now you can see that there's these nice, there's all these, you can see instead of having just the wiggly line, we have two wiggly lines, so you can see like where there's, a wave, you can see it easier. Now, if I move one over, look what happens. So when the lines match up, so this one that I'm moving represents my voice. Represents my voice. This is called phase. If you ever use a phaser in in a music program, it's what it's doing is it repeats the wave and then it shifts it over just slightly. So if I do this, right, if I have two wavelengths happening, they're happening at the exact same, if they're together, they strengthen each other, right? So if they're happening in unison, they strengthen each other. So what this would do is if you have two playing, watch, I'll just show you. I'll literally double this. Oops. My speed is like, it's going to be random. So I literally have two of these things going right now, right? I just have two tabs open and they're both making a sound. Okay. They're both the same speed. They're both happening 128 hertz. So we're going to do the other one. It's the same. Okay. But every time I click it, it's going to be happening somewhere along that vibration. So sometimes it's going to happen. I'm going to click it and it's going to be like right at the same time. But sometimes I'm going to click it and it's going to be slightly off, right? It's going to be here. Or sometimes I'm going to click it and it's going to be here. Okay. So, and you're going to hear that every time I click it, it's going to be like a slightly different volume. So here's one. Close the dead center where it's like they're canceling out, right? It made it quieter. What's happening here? Why is this happening? it's much quieter because when I go it like this, when I'm like this, they're canceling each other out. So this is exactly how noise canceling headphones work, right? All they do is they have a microphone in there and they receive the sound and then they play the same sound but shift it over just slightly so that it cancels out. Or it's phase shifted, it's reversed so that it cancels this noise. That's how noise canceling headphones work. So, but this one, all I'm doing literally is changing the volume because all I'm doing, right, here's off. Here's one vibration going. I just click it. Sometimes it makes it louder, sometimes it makes it quieter. I be right. So that's what's happening. When we're playing the same frequency at different times, it can make it louder and softer. But what happens if we change the frequency? Okay, so this gets interesting. Okay, now this gets really interesting. Okay, now look, what I've done is I've stretched out one of them. So you can see that right here in the middle of the chart, these ones are in phase. These are in phase right here. They're lined up. But you can see once we get to the end of the chart, they're out of phase. Okay? They're no longer in phase. So what's happening is during this part, they're making it louder. And during this part, they're canceling out, making it quieter. And this happens like, it happens with a frequency itself. It happens over the course of time. So, right, you can see, let's see if I can get this to where you have a really good visual representation. So, I really want you to be able to see this. Yeah, so if I put it over, you can see where they're lining up. You can see where they're not. Okay, so look. Then this. This is it right now. Okay. So now you can see, and if I take these, if I just do it, this one. Okay, look, so now you can see it. So when the waves are out, are of two different speeds, right? What I did is I took the one on top and I stretched it out. You can see that right here. Draw, draw. New tool. Right here. Right here. Right here. Right here. Right here. And then right here. They are in phase, right? You see how they're lining up there? And when they're in phase, they amplify each other. They make it louder. Then here, color, and here, they're opposite. They're out of phase, which means they're canceling out like noise canceling headphones. And so it makes it quieter. So that makes this beating sound. And that has a frequency in and of itself. Look here. Here's a, hold on. Okay. Look, here's another I'm just gonna make this thing huge. And here is another set of waves, right? Oops. Making another wavelength. Boom. There. See that? This is just a wave representing the the beats, right? So here's a greater frequency. So this is the so I want you to hear this right now. This is what this sounds like. So here's 128. Okay. So you get the idea. So that whoa, 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 that is happening. That's what's happening here. Now, when we hear that warble, that whoa, 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 like usually in music, it's like it's kind of like intense. What's interesting is it's a frequency in and of itself, but it's a frequency that's like out of time with the other ones, and it's just kind of like a lot on the ear. It's kind of intense to hear that. It's intense to hear that level of frequency. Um, it's not so good for us because you have like you have frequencies that are clashing. You have like vibrations of different speeds that are coming together and they're not coherent, so they make another vibration that's then like a little chaotic, and we just don't like that. It doesn't feel so good, right? So this is where like the merit comes in of people talking about like radio waves and other things coming in that create discoherency. Like it's it's got some merit to it, you know. It's don't worry, you're gonna be okay because you don't want to like get all your head wrapped up in a knot about this, but you know, these things have an effect on us. So there's that. Now, I hope that makes sense, right? You could hear it and basically what was happening. And let's see what was. Let's see if oh yeah, okay. So here, so you can kind of see inside this. If I do it real goodly. Okay, so here, real goodly. I just said goodly. Okay, here's them together, right? Perfectly in unison. So as I stretch it out, you see this, you see like right here, watch this area, you can see something moving this way. You can see this ripple moving. You see that? See it kind of move? You see that area? You see, okay, so now you see these points, one, two, three. You see these points of unison? Watch this. As it gets bigger, they get closer together. You see that? So look, we have one here, 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 we have one here. Okay. Imagine we're getting kind of farther apart. It's not the easiest thing to see. Let me see if I can try this. This might make it easier to see. Let's do this. And then let's Okay. Alrighty. Let's see it a little bit better. So unison, perfect unison. Now you can see as I make this other one bigger, you can see these moments. It would be easier if it wasn't scaling like vertically as well. Easier to see. But you can see I've got a point of unison here, and then out of phase here, in phase here, out of phase here, in phase here, out of phase in phase here, out of phase here. So as this one gets bigger, these shift closer and closer together. You can start to see these little wavelengths, these little, you see this, you kind of you see this, you can see this movement. You see that? You see this movement going to the left as I make this bigger. You see that? You see that kind of things moving to the right. You see this pattern moving to the right and then moving to the left. See that? So as I grow, the interference pattern gets closer together until eventually it kind of disappears. And there's a secret in that because once we get to a certain bigness, things start to mathematically match up. So if I double the size of this, oops, so let's do this and then double it. Double it. Oh my gosh, this is freaking amazing. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Oh my God, this is so cool. I just doubled the frequency. So I just stretched the whole thing out twice. Watch. Look, let's go look at it. You see this? You see this? Look at this. Look at this. You see how perfect that is? Look at these shapes. I'm blowing my own mind right now. This is amazing. I'm literally just blowing my own freaking mind. You see that regularity? This is one visualization of, okay, I doubled it. This is a visualization of an octave. Fuck, this is cool. So, um, right? Look at the regularity. Okay. This is a visualization. This is a visualization of harmony. Look at the pattern. Look at the regularity. Okay. This is this is this is one vibration. Okay. This is perfect unison. It's right on top of it. Okay. Now stretch it out. Let's go. Right. This is doubled right there. Okay. Look at that. You see the regularity? Okay, let's go out of phase. Okay. Distorted. Very little regularity. Okay. Very few patterns. Right. But then when I pull it and I get it just right, everything lines up. This is perfectly doubled. And you can see, here's what's happening. We have two wavelengths happening. One is happening at this frequency, and the other one in it is happening at this frequency. So for every, look, there's one that's happening, there's two here, and then there's one here. There's two here and then one here. You see that, right? You see how nice that looks? You see that nice pattern? Look what happens when that's not perfectly lined up. It's discoherent. Okay. So this is a representation of an octave. Let me explain something. I've been doubling. I've been doubling. I've been doubling the frequency. Okay. So let's go back to this. Remember this? Okay. Doubling. So there's one. I'm not gonna hear it. Double. Two. Okay. Those two together, right? That's what's happening. Literally what this is showing. One. The big one happening one time. Little one happening twice, right? If left, right, left, right is time. Those pulses are happening right here. I'm gonna mic. Trying to get it to where it's like right in the center. So what's happening here? Because it's coming at the exact same time. But here's show you a visual representation of what's happening. Right? If I take this whole big stack. Oh. Okay. So what's happening? You hear how this pulse is? This pulse is the little ones. Now this one, this big one, right now is it's like slightly off. It's like that kind of. And I want to get it so that's happening right there, dead center, but it's slightly off. Right? So it's like that. So I was trying to get it so it's dead center, but it's hard to. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so back to doubling, right? We're doubling. Here's 2. Let's double again. 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Okay, so I'm going to explain something to you right now. For those of you who don't know, we are now ascending octaves. Okay, so this is the first musical interval because it's times 2. We've multiplied the pitch times 2. So you've noticed that I was starting with 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, then next one, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and I am just doubling the thing. Right. So we get into that. And then after a certain point, I cannot do it with this, but my vocal folds can do it. And that's making a speed that then my ears can register as a pitch. Once we get into that range, when we double it, we are creating what is called an octave. And if you know anything about music, if you go up 12 notes on the piano chromatically, which means you hit all of the keys, white and black keys, and you start at 1, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you arrive at the same note. Let me demonstrate. Pick any key, pick a C, and then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the relationship between this C and this C is times 2. They're doubled. And this one is doubled, right? So let me show you. Right, this is almost a C, but that piano, I guarantee that one online, this one's probably tuned in 440. So it's vibrating up. It's saying that this C here, I think, or this one is 440 hertz instead of 432. So 128, or no, sorry, not 432, 256. 432 is for the A pitch, for the A5, it's 432. But we're in C, so if you're tuning with A reference 432 hertz, then C, it should be 256, which is the C, which is cool because the C is the it's the first note in the piano. We tune the piano in C. So when we have the diatonic scale, which is this, la, da, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. When we have this, we are starting in C. And C, when we're in the tuning of 432, is tuned to the frequency of a second. That's why it's the first note on the piano. It is tuned to a second. Yes, it's tuned to a second. Not second as in first second, a second as in seconds and minutes. It's tuned to the frequency of a second, which is in harmony with the rotation of the earth. Okay. So okay, so yes, so here, right, 128, let's go 256. Okay, now let's look at it on the piano. Boom, there you go. Let's see, let me just see if this is, I think we're tuned in 440, so 128. Okay, this piano's in 440. You hear that warble? Right? Let's get the chart for, okay, yeah, this is showing 440, so frequency of C, and this is 523.2. I think I need to divide that by 4. Come on. Hello, respond. Are you the calculator of all apps? Why are you? 523.2 divided by 4. It's 130.8. 130.8. Okay. 130.8. 131. Better. that 131 in the scale of 440 in the tuning of 440 when everything's referenced to a 440. And I'll just show you what that means, right? Let's go to 440. This is 440 hertz. So the tuning of instruments and everything went to 440 at one point. But originally it was 432 because it's more connected with the speed of the Earth. That's why. So this is 440. This is the standard right now. 440 is the standard. 432. What is the original? Slightly different. So when we shift it, everything shifts slightly. When we change it, everything like shifts slightly. So when we're in 432 tuning, those C's are falling on that like they're doubled from 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, right? So those are falling in line with that. So okay, so we just defined what an octave is. We doubled the frequency, and then we look at it on here. Look at it on here. Okay. So see this? This is what happens when I double the frequency. This is why the octave sounds nice together, right? Here, let's do two. Let's do 128 on this one. Do a nice sine wave. And let's do 256 on this one. This one's going to be sine wave. So see that? You hear that? Just sound nice together. Watch, if I push one off, this is kind of not, it's not as good, right? Here's 128. Harmony, okay? Harmony. So this representation here is showing a visual representation of what I just demonstrated in sound, right? You see how nice this pattern is? Look at this. It's like a quilt. It's nice. These ones are a little off. I could be a little bit more precise, but it's like, it's nice. It's lining up. Okay, so that's what an octave is. That's why an octave sounds nice to our ears. So yes, that is the thing. So I started this talk talking about I talked about rhythm. We got into pitch. We went pretty deep in pitch. And I was going to say how when we have this structure of music and we understand it, we can use it, it provides a regularity of structure so that energy can move in the body. So this is all I've got for today. But tune into the next video, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, about how the architecture of music and physics basically links into the architecture of spirituality, basically, and how the energy can move in the body. And yeah, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I blew your mind. I blew my own mind, especially with this visual representation here. This thing blew my mind. This is cool. This just came and just like I was just playing around kind of. I thought that was really cool. Anyways, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Oh, let's see. So the original point, let me just make sure I wrap something up here. So the next time I would like to move forward into talking more about how this structure, how this regularity of rhythm and pitch and structure comes in and helps us uh, to allow us to feel things, and because we legitimately feel energy moving in the body because we're opening up a energetic center in the body that is made through the interaction of wavelengths and frequencies inside the body. So the music comes in and it literally tunes the vibrational centers of the body and then allows the energy to move, thus us having the ability to feel emotions, because energy and motion, emotion, energy and motion moving through the body. We feel them at various points, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, maybe chest, maybe um, solar plexus, root, whatever. We feel those at various locations in the body. So these frequencies that we're talking about line up for us to be able to feel things, to open up these energetic pathways. So when we learn the language of music and we start to understand it and we start to calibrate ourselves to this, we are able to be more in touch with our own energy and use this as a tool, and then have more of awareness of the tool of this uh, to make changes in the way we feel, to allow things to move fluidly, to allow energy to move fluidly in the body. So I wish you well. I hope you're doing very well today, um, and may you be happy. I'll see you on the next one. I'm going to bed. It's 2 a.m. Okay. Oh, I had so much fun. This was fantastic. See you next time.